This is the OnePlus Pad 3, and depending on who you are, you may or may not look at this as one of the more premium Android tablets out there, and a lot of that lies in what premium means to you. For some, that might be related to how much power it has, or you might look at other aspects like the design or the display. With a Pad 3 in particular, OnePlus has put some serious hardware in here, but the question is, does it have what it takes to compete with other high-end tablets on the market? Let's get into it. Hey everyone, Kyle Erickson here. Over the last year, tablets have seen a huge resurgence. 2024 was the first time in 4 years that global tablet sales actually increased, and looking at tablets like this OnePlus Pad 3, you can start to see why. The Pad 3 is a 13.2-inch tablet and starts at $699 USD or $999 Canadian, which makes it competitively priced for its size, and the amount of things that you can do with a device like this, or the way that you can use it, is very versatile. For starters, it's incredibly lightweight and portable for its size. It's only 675 grams, which is about half the weight of a laptop with a similar screen size. And it's only 6mm thick, which is incredibly slim for everything that's packed in here. The Pad 3 also has great build quality with a solid aluminum unibody construction with no seams that OnePlus offers in 2 colors, frosted silver or storm blue, which is what I have here, and also has a new design compared to the Pad 2 that I looked at last year. This year, the corners are a little more squared off and look quite similar to the iPad Pro, and OnePlus has done away with the old camera bump in the center of the tablet in favor of a pill-shaped camera bump in the corner of the device. I actually preferred the older camera bump, and it would have been great to see them try and incorporate elements of the OnePlus 13 camera design into this tablet, because to me, that's what makes OnePlus really distinctive at this point, but that's a pretty minor complaint nonetheless. The only real issue I have with the design is with the USB-C port, which is placed right on the edge of the device, and not only do I find it kinda weird to look at, but I do wonder about potential damage or bending over time there. The USB-C cable also sticks up a bit when it's attached, so it doesn't sit flat when it's charging, and I do think that that may leave some opportunity for additional pressure or wear over time, but that is really my only complaint design-wise. Outside that, the bezels on here are a nice balance of being small enough to give you a nice modern look that uses most of the space available, but not so small that it promotes accidental touches while holding it, and when it comes to the display itself, that's where things get interesting. As I said, the Pad 3 has a 13.2-inch display, which is up from 12.1 in the Pad 2. It still has an IPS LCD panel, which is pretty common for devices in this price range, but you'll get somewhat of a unique 7:5 aspect ratio with 3.4K resolution, which sits right in the middle of 16:10 aspect ratio tablets like the Galaxy Tab and 4:3 ratios that you'd see in an iPad. It feels like a nice compromise for both portrait and landscape use. The panel specs themselves are also pretty great. This has a 144Hz variable refresh rate, so it's super smooth while gaming, scrolling, or with any motion for that matter, but it's also outstanding for color critical work, having 12-bit color depth that covers 98% of the P3 gamut. That makes this ideal for editing photos or videos, and OnePlus also advertises the Pad 3 as having 600 nits peak brightness, or 900 nits in high brightness mode, so you can certainly use this outdoors or in bright areas if you want to. That being said, being an LCD panel, you're not going to get the same black levels or contrast as an OLED panel, and I have noticed some very slight banding in specific instances, but you really have to look for it, and everything from photo editing to gaming or watching content looks fantastic on this display. If you are watching content, the color and image really pop, and everything sounds great as well, as OnePlus has included an 8-speaker sound system, featuring 4 woofers and 4 tweeters that get incredibly loud for a tablet this size. Probably one of, if not the loudest tablet that I've tested. There's also support for spatial audio, and the nice thing is the speakers will adapt to whichever orientation the tablet is in, so you're always going to get the correct left and right channel separation, and you get a nice clear, crisp sound. At max volume, it's not going to sound as crisp, but for something that's only 6mm thick, it's super impressive. When it comes to recording audio, the two internal microphones also sound quite good, so it's great for video calls in that sense, where the cameras I would say are just alright. I don't put a whole lot of stock into cameras on tablets. I rarely ever use them outside of the occasional call, but on the Pad 3 you've got a 13-megapixel rear camera and an 8-megapixel front camera with face unlock biometrics. The face unlock aspect works alright, but because it isn't the greatest quality, it can struggle in bad lighting conditions, and the rear camera I would mostly use for scanning documents and things of that nature. That being said, cameras aren't why you buy a tablet like this, and it's much more likely that you're going to be concerned with the performance, and that's where the Pad 3 really stands out. This is one of the first tablets to get the Snapdragon 8 Elite chipset, which has a 45% increase in CPU performance and a 40% boost to GPU performance over the previous generation. The unit that I have here has 256 gigs of storage and 12 gigs of RAM, although you can push that up to 512 and 16 if you feel like it's not quite enough, but regardless, you can expect to see about the same performance out of this chip as in the OnePlus 13, which makes sense given that they use the same chip. Benchmarks are about the same, where you will see slightly better scores on the Pad 3. Part of that is because OnePlus has implemented new vapor chambers and cooling that keeps the tablet running about 4 degrees cooler than the OnePlus 13 and other competitors. You can see the heat does kind of concentrate around the top of the unit, but it never gets uncomfortably hot, and it's handled everything that I've thrown at it without any issues, whether it be demanding games, photo editing, or multitasking between apps. And the OS experience has been fantastic as well. The Pad 3 runs a tablet version of Oxygen OS 15 that is based on Android 15, and you get some OnePlus-specific stuff included, like their AI toolbox with features for writing, translating, and summarizing documents. That stuff was also on the Pad 2, but with the Pad 3, you're now seeing things like circle the search functionality added here, and some things with Open Canvas, which, for those that don't know, that is the multitasking system OnePlus uses for their tablets and foldables. With Open Canvas, I can still split screen apps or float apps on my screen and have them automatically reposition themselves based on the screen orientation, but now say if I'm switching back and forth between apps a lot, I'll get a little indicator asking me if I'd like to split screen those apps, which is a nice touch. I can also swing out the sidebar for sharing files or images between apps, translate web pages or text, and OnePlus has expanded their ecosystem features, where you can still easily share files between OnePlus devices, but they've now introduced apps and functionality for use with Apple devices as well. All I need to do to get that working is download the OnePlus Connect app on iOS or macOS, and then I can not only easily transfer files back and forth between the connected devices, but I can remotely control my Mac, which is super cool and really useful, say, if I want to take my work somewhere else without disturbing my desk setup. That being said, there are a couple of things I wish OnePlus would have included with this tablet version of Oxygen OS. For one, when you swipe down from the center of the screen, you'll get this really narrow UI panel, and when in landscape mode, if you click global search, it's locked to portrait mode, so not great usability. And likewise, the other thing I think they could have included is just more thoughtfulness in the landscape orientation. For example, when I have this in landscape mode, the volume controls are the opposite of what you might expect. The left button will make the volume go up, and the right makes it go down, which should probably be reversed by default. I know there are solutions out there to fix this, but having some sort of auto switching feature built in by default would probably make a lot of sense, especially considering most people are gonna be using this in landscape. Those are relatively minor things, but I think it could really polish the overall experience. But outside of that, you do get Gemini built in here as the default assistant, just like you do on the OnePlus 13. And you get OK software support with 3 years of OS updates and 6 years of security updates. Not quite on the level of some of the other recent devices that we've seen, but respectable for an Android tablet. Now, out of everything here, the real highlight for me is the battery life, where the Pad 3 has a massive 12,140 mAh battery that OnePlus claims can run demanding games for 6 hours straight, play media for up to 17 hours, and has a whopping 70-day standby time. And in my own testing, those numbers are likely pretty accurate. I can easily get 2 days of use out of this tablet with mixed usage and upwards of 8 hours of screen on time at high brightness levels, which is fantastic. And when it does come time to charge, using the included 80-watt SuperVOOC charger will take this from 0 to 100% in about an hour and a half. It's also nice that OnePlus includes the charger and the cable in the box. My only gripe is that they're still shipping USB-A chargers that have USB-C to USB-A cables instead of moving everything to USB-C, but at 80 watts power delivery, I'm not gonna complain too much. Speaking of USB-C, connectivity-wise, that port also supports USB 3.2 at up to 5 gigabits per second transfer speeds. That's pretty average, I would say, but on the wireless side, you do get the latest and greatest with Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth 5.4, where I've seen very respectable speeds and had zero issues with any devices I've paired to the Pad 3, including the refreshed accessories made specifically for this tablet. Just a note here that you'll have to buy these separately from the tablet, and they are not included, but the Pad 3 keyboard can magnetically connect via pogo pins or wirelessly with Bluetooth. It has nice spaced out keys that are very similar to a laptop. There's also a dedicated AI key for launching Gemini, and the trackpad feels a lot better than it did on the Pad 2 keyboard. If you watched my Pad 2 video from last year, the trackpad on that keyboard drove me nuts, where I'd get a lot of inadvertent clicks and touches. Most of that seems to be resolved now, where occasionally it still stops or hangs up on me in some places that expect different scrolling or clicking behavior, but I think that's more of an OS issue rather than the hardware itself. Also, the back stand portion of that keyboard snaps on magnetically with a hinge similar to a Surface Pro, and it does have a tendency to want to lift off when adjusting the hinge, and isn't great for using on your lap. I am kind of nitpicking there, but this is $199 USD or $249 Canadian, so it is on the more expensive side, but you do have a more affordable trifold folio case option that's only $50 USD or 65 Canadian. That's good quality and gives you a bunch of different angles you can use the tablet with, and this tablet uses the same Stylo 2 pencil as last year, which clips onto the tablet and works fantastic. In a general sense, if you define a premium tablet as something that has excellent performance, top-tier battery life, and in large part is made up of great components, this probably fits that description. There are definitely some quirks. That USB-C placement is pretty strange, and I think the keyboard could probably be better given what it costs. I'm less concerned about any issues in software, as those can be fixed through updates, but looking at the overall package, this does feel like one of the more complete Android tablets out there right now. That being said, I would love to hear what you think. Is the Pad 3 something that you would consider, or would you rather stick with an iPad or a Galaxy Tab? Let me know in the comments down below, along with the features that matter the most to you. That's all I got for you today. I hope you found this video useful or enjoyable. If you did, feel free to hit that like button. If you'd like to see more tech-related content, or help me develop a tablet with a built-in cheese grater for topping gourmet pasta, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next upload.